Okay, so I'd like to call this Folcroft Borough Council meeting to order at 7:18, Tuesday, November 10th, 2020. Again, roughly 18 minutes late because of an executive session that happened prior to this meeting to discuss confidential matters. That said, I'd like to turn it over to the mayor for the flag salute and invocation.
As we've been doing, take a moment for the people with COVID. You know, whatever you do, pray or think about them. Okay. The flag's on my chest. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
To the flag
of the United States of America,
and
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Mr. Borough Manager, if you could go through the roll call.
Council President Papaleo,
Present.
Councilman Kyle Willis,
Present.
Councilwoman Lee Daly,
Present.
Councilman Nick Waters, Councilman Nick Waters, you there? Hello. He was on before, wasn't he?
Yeah, I'll text him and tell him to sign in.
All right, well, while we're doing that, Councilwoman Melinda Isaac,
Present.
Councilman Jason McGuigan, Councilman Jason McGuigan. Is Jason on here?
No.
All right. Councilman Robert Ruskowski. Councilman Robert Ruskowski.
Not present on the meeting.
Mayor Bob Fry.
Here.
Alex.
I'm here.
And I am present.
There's Waters. Nick, can you hear us? Connecting to audio. Okay. Sorry about that. There, I hear him.
I'll take that as Nick is present.
I'm here. I'm in.
Okay. All right. So now we've gotten to roll call, audience participation.
We had none.
Okay. Moving on to the engineer's report.
Once I unmute myself, we can move forward. Hello, everyone. First, before I get started with the engineer's report, I wanted to at least let the residents know that we're currently working to get all of the building permits, the UNOs, and other outstanding items from up in the License and Inspections Department. We're working diligently to prioritize those. We have about 6 weeks worth of documents that we're going through. We have found that people are calling, haven't not found their applications. So we're working through all of that. Please be patient with us. Most of the people that we spoke with are very understanding that there's been a change, and we're hoping within the next 2 weeks to have everything caught up, that we can do our usual work in the borough. So I wanted to present that just so everyone understands what's going on. If you call the borough office, please do not hit 1. Right now, the voicemail says hit line number 1 to reach the L&I department. If you contact
I had her take that off today. It should be off today. If it's not, I will double check.
Okay, well, as of this morning, it wasn't. So if that's the case, then that's taken care of. But we are taking the calls at Catania Engineering. The permit applications, etc., are still going to the borough. We have a courier that's picking them up and going through those. I spent about 3 hours last Monday going through every file cabinet, closet, looking for all the information that we need to proceed. I know Bill Gavin, I believe, was there today, and I apologize, I don't know that because he wasn't in the office while I was in the office. But we are working to get everything resolved and get to a normal order. With that being said, my engineer's report is rather short. Right now, the road program is being completed. Tomorrow, we should have the last 2 streets paved. At that point, we'll do a punch list. I was expecting that we would see the numbers from Pico. I provided them my cost estimate with all of my measurements. They were going to verify that through their paving restoration department, and I have yet to see it. I told them that we had a meeting tonight, was asking them to please get the information over to us. What I would like to do is, on the agenda next month, put an authorization to pave, expecting that with the numbers that I have, that I'm going to give you a recommendation that we should proceed with accepting the fee in lieu and complete the work so that we're doing curb to curb and not just one lane. All right. On my report, Brun Properties, we have not seen any further action from them at all. We were told that they were going to do the repair work on the rain garden, and they were going to be submitting for the new development in Lot 2. However, we've not seen either one of those at this point. I don't have any further information on that. Safe Store is getting close to record plan. I believe today the manager sent a letter confirming that all of the residents who are within the floodplain upstream and downstream of the site that would be impacted if there was an issue. A letter had to go out saying that they were notified. That was done by the applicant. Wanted to also advise that the letter that went out said that there was an impact to their property. Based on the information, all of the calculations, the cross sections, and the information that we reviewed and FEMA has reviewed, there is no change to the current floodplain that the residents are now seeing. So there is no change to the floodplain extents as part of this project. So I want to make sure, although the letter said that they are impacted, it just meant that they are within the floodplain area that was studied as part of the project. There is no change in that flooding situation or that floodplain situation. Folcroft, we haven't seen anything back from them at this point, and I'm hoping that we will be moving forward with the record plans there. I reached out to Dave Damon, and it's very odd for Dave not to get back to me, but I haven't heard from him as to where the final plans are. Community Development Block Grant, we're still on hold waiting for the PennDOT project to demolish the Folcroft Avenue Bridge. The 2021 grant applications were just announced, which means that by January 6th, we will have the ability to put 2 applications in. One is a priority project, one is an alternate project. I know in the past you're aware that we have done sanitary sewer just recently. The 2020 is a sanitary sewer project. I'm waiting for the authorization to proceed from OHCD to get that project out and bid. The playgrounds and the clock tower, all of that walkway and lighting was done under a community development block grant. So we've been very lucky to get these kinds of projects that are at no cost to the borough. There has to be a community development block grant hearing. That hearing must be advertised And that is a condition of applying for the grants. So we'll need to do that at the December meeting. Usually only takes about 15 minutes to go through. If anyone has any ideas for construction projects, there are 2 areas that are eligible. I can send the mapping over. I know Andrew has a copy. It was sent directly to the borough with the applications. But if you have a specific project that you'd like to see, or for that matter, a planning project, last year, the second project that we put in was Hook Road and doing a master plan for Hook Road, Delmar Drive. It was done in conjunction with Darby Township. So I know it's something that Darby Township's looking to upgrade Hook Road, and the borough, that council was looking at upgrading Delmar Drive. We get a master plan, we have a better shot at getting other grants that are available.
Can I ask, I hate to interrupt.
No, go
Uh,
ahead.
That interests me. Do any of these grants qualify, or do they, I guess, pertain to maybe greening that traffic triangle and trying to change that look on that? Would we qualify for any of that there?
Yes, would it qualify? I don't know that we could actually do the construction because that particular area isn't eligible for construction, but we certainly could do a plan for that. My plan is once this COVID gets through and PennDOT is better staffed, they're all working, sometimes some of them from home, some of them in the office, is I'm going to take a photo or photos of that area and kind of show them what we want to do, just greening up the islands and maybe possibly even get some new welcome signs, some signage up there, improve the signage that's already there. PennDOT has helped us with that and the intersection of 420 and Lincoln Avenue. I mean, 420 and Justified, excuse me, 420 is Lincoln Avenue. So I think that project is probably too small to do for a master planning unless you want to do that whole corridor. One of the other things that the Bayard area is Bayard, Willers, that area, we've done paving before. Whether or not we want to take a look at doing some additional under the community development block grant. I don't know. I know at some point in time we had talked about that the property the borough owns across the street from the library and the firehouse, and doing something there with maybe an educational area. We actually years ago we actually won a county award for this one. We did Woodlot. Woodlot is a passive recreation area that has specific areas where you can actually have the classes from Parkside Elementary School go over. It's right now, all of the paths are in, the lights are in. It's evolving because was built in, I think, the 70s, the early 70s. So we're working at cleaning it up, but the next thing will be to identify the plants that are there so that there can be classes in that particular property. So looking at it, I would think we might want to adapt something like that, potentially because you have the MSFAR program, that we look at putting some sort of a rain garden in so the kids understand what rain gardens are all about. It will help with your TSS reduction that we have to do, the total suspended solids out of the surface waters, and it gives people an understanding of this is what a rain garden is, this is its function, and we may actually see people actually putting some of these in their front yards at some point in time. So they're just some ideas that I had for the block grant. You could do something from a historic standpoint, although I'm not aware that there's any facilities that are historic landmarks in Folcroft Borough. Know that you have the Horn House, but I don't know that anything's on a state or a
Registry.
federal register. So
It's a
if anyone-
shame. They should be. It's, I wish.
And maybe that's something you look at. Maybe from a historic standpoint, do some sort of a historic analysis of the area and where you can place some of these things. I think Beverly Barnes and the crew over at Delaware County Planning would probably jump at that opportunity. They're always looking for historic properties and how they can help. We have the Morton House and the Morton Homestead in Norwood and Prospect Park. And they were more than willing to help us, supporting us for grants that we just put in for upgrading those two facilities.
How does it change because the two oldest properties in the borough are the Horn House and the older one, even older than that, just up Ashland Avenue a little bit. It's set back. It's like right after Shawcross. It's the Shawcross house.
Mhm.
So they're two privately owned homes. I don't know if that does that change things in terms of getting them on the historic registries? Do you need cooperation from the owners?
I don't know the answer to that, but we have some contacts at PHMC. They are not, their offices are actually closed. So getting a hold of them right now is a little challenging, we'll say.
Yeah.
But if we email them, probably by next month, we'll hear some response from them, how you would do that. You don't have a historic commission here, right? You don't have a historic society in Folcroft?
I don't think we do currently. I don't.
I'm kind of thinking you might want to reach out to like Judy Williams over in Norwood is very active. Unfortunately, we lost Joan McVicker, so Joan was another one that was all involved with the Historic Society. Speak with them. Jimmy Cleaver is involved with Historic Society in Prospect Park. They might be able to assist you on how you get started. They just had a new sign put up, the iron signs that have all the information on it over at the Morton House.
Okay.
In Lower Park of Norwood. So
Like the historical marker kind of thing.
So that's probably the best way to start. And we can reach out to the PHMC and see how we can get some of those older homes on a registry. It will probably involve whether it's a separate historic society or a borough historic society. Like a council appointed historic society is what I'm referring to.
Okay. Cool.
I believe at that point, that's all I have to, Kyle, are you doing the report for the building?
Yes, but any updates you have, I think the big one is DEP right now. So if you have anything that I haven't heard yet.
I spoke to Stephanie this morning and the answer that I got, it's in her queue. I have a meeting with her on Friday. So I'm gonna plead, cry and beg and whatever else we need to do to get that moving out of DEP's queue. We did get the flood certification had already been done. We got the phase one. The information on the phase one is other than the underground storage tank at the library. There are no environmental issues that we need to consider on the property. And even the storage tank, they weren't concerned with. So if you're interested, you need to get a sleeping pill. There's, I believe it's 564 pages of information that you can read on the phase one study that was completed for the
They're always great
project.
reads. They're riveting phase ones.
They are. Some of the figures in the back I blew off, but that's all I have unless anybody has any other questions.
I think we're good. We're good. All right. Let me get my agenda back open here. Trying to do everything paperless, so my phone automatically closes and I have to go back into it, so forgive me. So we go into public finance and administration. So it was brought to my attention, I guess about a week or two ago, that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has adjudicated its regulations regarding what sort of municipalities are eligible for the establishment of redevelopment authorities. It used to be that you had to have a population of at least 10,000 souls in order to qualify for the formulation of a redevelopment authority. That has since been changed. And I'm glad to see that it's been changed. I've been asking for it for quite some time. And I think a lot of people have. Small municipalities like Folcroft are now facing big city problems without the tools to confront them. So redevelopment authorities are really useful tools in the acquisition of land, the redevelopment of it. And it's something that I am really interested and passionate about. I'm interested in it. I'm passionate, for that sort of thing. It's something that I think that that Folcroft could certainly benefit from. I had talked to very briefly Alex Baumler to our solicitor about it. Do you have anything further on that? Did we confirm that that this does now in fact make us eligible for formulation?
So, yeah, I mean, basically hit the nail on the head, Joe. I mean, you guys were always eligible, to be honest, but they just tweaked language in the Urban Redevelopment Act that made it clear that boroughs of any size and townships of any size could form this type of authority. By background, everybody, I mean, just so you know the mechanics of this would be an autonomous, essentially quasi-corporation sanctified by the state that would engage in acquisition of property through eminent domain, that would have the power to declare vacant property as blighted and condemn in that manner. They would also be able to sell property to private developers as well. And they're also going to facilitate essentially like state and federal grant monies for certain projects such as brownfields, environmental cleanup, and tax. There's also tax incremental financing with tips that are allowed too. So there's all kinds of different financing projects that they'll engage in. And then they'd actually have the authority to issue bonds as well. So these would be tax exempt, essentially loans to both private and public businesses. So this authority, each municipality would have quite a reach. Now you guys would establish it and set up the initial board. But again, they would be an autonomous entity. Essentially, they would have their own board, they would have their own meetings, they would have their own powers and decisions to make. The only thing that you guys could do is you would have the power to essentially take the project back and wind it up if you so chose. So you'd be creating not a monster, but essentially an entire new wing to help you with redevelopment in the county. Now, by reference too, you also have at the state level redevelopment authority, and Delaware County also already has one as well. They perform the same functions. So that's kind of the background and where it's going. The only thing I would caution is if you're going to proceed with this project that it's going to be time consuming. It's not something that you'll just establish immediately and you'll see results. It's going to take ordinances. It's going to take public hearings to establish it. You're going to have to staff it. You're going to have qualified persons to run it. And in addition, you're probably going to also have to revise your zoning ordinance, and you're going to have to adopt your own subdivision land development ordinance as well. So pretty massive undertakings. You'll need consultants to go through and parse through both of those ordinances and update and change, because what you're doing is you're creating an entity that has authority from you without any control, that can change your zoning, that can change the aesthetic looks of how properties are developed and established in your municipality without your final input or say. So,
but to be clear, the council does control who sits on the board of that organization.
You do. So, I mean, you will appoint, just like a zoning hearing board or a planning commission. I mean, they're essentially appointed by you guys and can be.
Can those board members be appointed and removed at the pleasure of council, or do they have to serve out the entirety of their term, or can that be decided in the I guess the bylaws of the organization?
So municipal authorities, which is what this would be designated as under both that statute and the Municipal Authorities Act, have much broader autonomous powers, as I keep saying. So essentially, you can appoint when a term expires or if a vacancy occurs. But other than that, you essentially have no control over that board. So you have to be very careful with going through this. But like I said, it's a great idea. I know other municipalities that I've dealt with that are of similar size or a little bit bigger. We're also considering the process as well. It's just, like I said, that's one piece of the puzzle. And you guys are really gonna have to go back through your zoning and adopt a saldo and a couple of other code cleanups, which again, can be a year or two process. They're massive undertakings.
Because, I mean, here's my angle from it. We can start purchasing up swaths of land or along important corridors that we want to redevelop. But then the borough really has very little control in terms of when we go to sell that property. If there's a specific plan we have for it, or if we like, if we do a competition and the developer whose plan we like best is who we want to sell that to, there are still certain regulations in terms of what we're allowed to do in the sale. Right. So does the redevelopment authority have a little bit more broader power in the decision-making process as in terms of who they'd like to sell it to? So in other words, let's say two people are interested and we don't like one of the guy's ideas of what he'd like to do with that land.
Right.
Does the development authority give us a little bit of more control over that? Because the borough will have to sell to whoever the best bid is. Is that right?
Right. I mean, they're not going to be subject to the public bidding requirements. That's your difference. But again, it's out of your control. Say you set up the authority and the board decides to sell to X developer whom you as a borough council do not like or would not want to see that property sold to. Under a bidding process, you can reject all the bids and start all over again. If the municipal authority makes that decision, you guys are powerless to stop the transaction from occurring. Now, what you would have control over would be the zoning of the property and the subdivision and land development of that property when that purchaser comes to, knock it down and enact whatever and construct whatever they want to do with the property. So I mean, there is a push and a pull here, and we'll have to consider all these things carefully. And like I said, you'll have to consider it in basically lockstep with your subdivision and your zoning ordinance. And I will caution that sometimes analysis, review, and change of those two ordinances can be a multi-year process.
Well, then let's get to work. How do I start? I mean, there's no magic wand. I know that progress and improvement is not something that happens overnight. It is a decades-long struggle. It's something that takes some time, and I'm willing to take those first steps. So, what do I do on Monday? Right? It's kind of like, what do we do next? How do we begin?
If you got my recommended course of action would be finish your budget for the year, seeing as we're in the middle of November now. Figure out your figures because you are going to have to fund it a little bit too to start. Mm-hmm. So figure out your budget, figure out the numbers that we're working with and what the borough can actually contribute to the authority to get them set up. And then in January, we'll start having the discussions on enacting the ordinance to create the authority itself.
Okay, very good. Does anybody want to add to that or discuss that at all? Anybody else interested in taking part in that? Lisa, any thoughts?
I think you guys really need to study this a little bit more before you get moving on it. From my experience, we for years were in Chester City, and the redevelopment authority there did a really good job. They understood what the needs and wants of the community was. But then again, you're going to be paying for an executive director and the staff that is going to be necessary to maintain some sort of I don't want to call it marketing, but yeah, more or less marketing skills and just knowing land uses and land developments, planners type thing. Quite frankly, your biggest, I think right now, is the piece of property where your municipal building is currently. And you can do that just by putting a plan together and then bidding that through the process, so that you can get the right developer to buy that piece of property. So I understand what you're saying, Joe, but as Alex pointed out, it is a very long process. To get your subdivision and your zoning completed, you're probably looking about $100,000 to $120,000. You need to upgrade your comprehensive plan before you would do a zoning plan. So there's a whole lot. I didn't even talk about a comp plan, and comp plans can run you about $60,000. So think about it before you jump into it, because it is, as you said, it's an arduous process. It's a time-consuming process, and you need to have the funds to be able to do it. And I'm not trying to talk you out of it. I'm just saying that it, because of the type of,
But we might be able to achieve what we're looking to achieve without it.
I believe so. And I only know a little bit about land banks, but I know that you could look into doing some land banks as well without doing a redevelopment authority. Alex can probably talk to that a little bit more. I don't know that it's for this meeting, but maybe we have some sort of a meeting with even your building committee to talk about how we get some of these things done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well said, Lisa. Yeah, and I'll just add for, general edification, a land bank essentially is just a subset of the authority. You guys would have the power through eminent domain to take vacant and blighted properties and basically accumulate them and then sell them off through this particular statute. Versus the authority itself informing that, which would have all the financial arms such as floating bonds and giving loans and all that kind of stuff. So they're the same concept. And I mean, you obviously as a borough also have eminent domain powers as well, and you have control over your zoning and your subdivision land development. So you have a lot of tools there that the authority would also possess. So we're just gonna have to look at everything in total to make the determination if the authority is right for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, if we could do
So
things without all that, if we could do this, if we could reach the same ends without all that, then I would say then it would be cheaper for us not to.
Alex, I have
So-
a question for you.
Yeah.
I know we have the power to eminent domain. Do we have the power to eminent domain blighted properties? As it is?
Yes, I mean, if it becomes a public health and safety issue, essentially that would give you the rationale to do it. But just remember, when you eminent domain a property, that does not excuse the borough from paying just compensation for the value of that property. So you might think it's a vacant
Yeah.
warehouse that has no value, but land might be worth, $500,000. It might be worth $1 million. So you guys are paying that at the end of the day if you're taking it via eminent domain.
That part I
Um,
assumed as much as well. I'm just thinking of it, and I'm not going to go into it because I assume being potential real estate or litigation related matter should be an executive session, but I can think of at least one property offhand that I think might need to be dealt with that way, but we'll save that maybe for an executive session.
Is it in the industrial park?
It is.
Another just kind of clarification question. I'm sure there are pieces of the puzzle that would need to happen for us to do this. If we wanted to go down the redevelopment commission, that are things we should probably do anyway, like maybe a comprehensive plan, things like this that we probably might want as the borough, whether we go down that route anyway. So we can think about those types of things that maybe we need to do either way, work on those while we consider the concept of a redevelopment commission, so that we're not necessarily losing time, but the things we need to do anyway,
Right.
as a way to just. be
Lisa,
versatile
what's in the
anyway.
master plan that was divided? I'm sorry, Councilman Williams, I apologize. What was in the master plan for, because I think we did one for Hook Road, Delmar Drive, right?
We
Is it-
did not do it. We had asked for funding for that.
Was it denied or?
It wasn't funded. That was the community development. That was the alternate. I believe it was, no, that was the priority project for both Folcroft and Darby Township last year, and it was not selected as one of the projects. If we are truly interested in doing something for the corridor, There is a grant that is coming up. It's called the TCDI grant. It is merely a planning grant. The MAP grant from DCD is also another one that we could look at. And again, these are solely planning grants. The whole point is that you need to know where you're going when you grow up. So this gives you a master plan. And then as you find grants, you say, okay, I can fit this piece of that puzzle of the master plan into this grant application or this funding. It's eligible. Let's see if we can get it. And then you start leveraging one grant against the other. But what they like to see and how you gain points is having a master plan that you've thought it out, that you've come to the conclusion, you've adopted this plan, and now you want to implement it. And you usually see that you gain a lot more funding using a master plan you would otherwise.
Okay, very good. So we should get after that for sure. So, all right, so that covers the one item in my slot there. The other one was the uniform policy. I'm not really all that crazed about it. I mean, I don't really care. I don't think that wearing a pair of khakis on a 95-degree day is going to make you a better employee. I got to call you back. Sorry. So, I mean, that's my opinion. But everybody else is certainly welcome to their own opinion on the matter. So I'd like to invite anybody to share their thoughts.
I mean, it's a pretty standard uniform policy. It leaves open the ability for supervisors to deem that, other attire may be necessary given extreme weather in either direction. I mean, it's nothing crazy. I mean, it's just kind of standard. So, I mean, approve it, don't approve it. I mean, there's wiggle room no matter what the necessary needs of the staff would be on any given day. Say the heater's stuck on, it's 100 degrees inside. Well, maybe we can adjust the requirement for wearing slacks and a dress shirt and a tie. It has those flexibilities built in. So I don't see any reason not to enact it. It just gives us the ability to theoretically, with that as a policy in place, use that policy when someone decides to come into work every day in a tank top and, what could be considered inappropriate, attire. It gives us that route in the future. So I mean, it's
damn flip-flops.
Yeah. So there's nothing controversial in my opinion in it. So I can't imagine why it wouldn't be a simple, okay.
Nobody complained when I wore a Speedo, just saying.
All right, that's enough. All right. So I mean, I'm willing to bring it to a vote. I don't.
Well, next meeting.
We don't have anybody coming to work with Daisy Dukes and crop tops. I mean, it's really not that much of a problem that we have to legislate about it, but whatever. So moving on to Public Works.
Yes.
Shut up, Kyle. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. You go ahead.
So we have two items that do not appear on your agendas as they're kind of later game pieces. So the first of which we'll cover is Sean, our highways foreman, has requested that we consider doing, the exact terminology, I'm not there, but seasonal help for leaves and for snow removal and things like that as we're coming into this time, especially since we're a little short-staffed within the highways department. The person that has been recommended for this, just so you know, is Danny, our former highways foreman. So he has the experience, the knowledge of the borough, and I believe that rate would be $15 an hour. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was what we were discussing, Andrew.
You're right. That's correct.
And so this would just be seasonal help coming in. The only question we would just want to make sure is I believe that there's no issue with it, but the contract just making sure it's okay to bring in that part-time help, which should be fine as far as I remember, but just check the contract to make sure. But this will give them some much needed help as we head into the winter.
I'm cool with it.
I'm good with it.
So, all right, so we'll run one last check through the contract just to be 100% certain, and then we'll have that for the next meeting then. The second item, and I only put this here because there's not really anywhere else in the agenda to kind of discuss it. As I'm sure you know, I myself, Andrew Hammond and Lee Daly met with people from the EPA. Some resident concerns were coming up about the Superfund site that is technically located within the borough. And I just wanted to give a quick update to those of you who were not able to be there as to what was discussed, and then just also for the record for the public. For my understanding, and take this for what it is, I have worked on projects like this in the past. So I do have some understanding and expertise within this area, but I am not part of the EPA. I don't have any particular ground knowledge on this other than the reports that they have published in this discussion. But it is the belief of the EPA, based on the evidence that they have collected, that there's no direct risk to human health from this site. There's no direct risk of ground contaminants for people to walk across to our residents. There is some concern to ecological life within the aquatic realm for the wildlife preserve, but that is still being researched at this point. So don't eat the fish if you're fishing in the Darby Creek would be my personal recommendation, though I wouldn't have recommended
I
it
wouldn't eat them
anyway. But as I said, they do not believe there's any direct risk to human health. The reports are all available on EPA's website. I passed along some evidence and concerns that residents had passed to me, to them directly for them to look into farther, and I'll follow up with them at a future date to see if anything comes of that. And if we're continuing to have questions and people asking questions, hopefully maybe once a pandemic is out, I can see if we can request a public meeting for them to come down and give that information. But obviously that is going to be a request, not really anything that I can guarantee. But if people have questions about this, I can do my best to answer them based on my knowledge and what I have. And those requests can go to Andrew, and he can forward them along to me. Does anyone here have any questions about the site or anything maybe I can answer?
Now, I understand that there were some concerns from some residents about one of the plots. It's a large swath of land behind Taylor Drive. Actually, I think, Mayor, it's behind your block and several of the blocks on either side of you on Taylor Drive.
Yeah, I believe we lost the mayor.
Oh, Mayor not with us?
But yes, that was the concern that was forwarded to me, that I forwarded along to the EPA. There was satellite imagery that showed ground disturbance behind those homes in that area. Ground disturbance does not necessarily equate to landfill. Could be tree clearing. It could be just leftover fill material from the construction of the buildings. There are many, many different reasons why it can appear that there's ground disturbance. That's why we just forwarded to the EPA and let their experts do their investigation and let it determine it. So just those images alone don't really necessarily indicate that there's anything at issue, but the main concern there, as I understand it, is that that land was owned by the same company that owned the landfill. So there was some concern along that. So that's why that was given credence to be passed along to for them to look into.
Correct.
I just want to put out there so that everybody knows, I sat in on that meeting, and I think this council and the Borough of Folcroft should be very thankful that we have Kyle, because the EPA did a great job of explaining the information, but Kyle did a great job of understanding the information and being able to break that information down for someone like me. And I consider myself a typical resident. So his ability to grasp that knowledge is going to be great for us when these questions come up. So, I mean, I just wanted to put that out there so everybody knows. I literally texted Andrew during that meeting. This is way above my pay grade. Thank God Kyle understands, and he's a teacher, because he was able to say, this is what's going on. And I feel very confident with his ability to break that information down. So going forward, let's be thankful that he's got the background that he has. So thanks, Kyle.
And as I said, I will do my best to answer any questions that I can or forward along those questions to the EPA and act kind of, at least for us on council and for our residents, as a bit of a mediator to make sure those questions get to the people they need to get to the best of my ability. So feel free to pass that along however it gets to me. But unless there's any other questions, those are the two things I have for this part of tonight.
No, it's good. It's good. All right. So moving on to public safety, Councilman Wiskowski is not present. So I have no new business from that committee to report. Moving on to public health and literacy, Councilwoman Isaac,
No new no new,
no new business. Okay.
no new
Moving on to
business.
municipal planning and zoning, Councilman Waters, I'm sorry.
I also have no new business to discuss.
Moving on to public parks and recreation.
The Halloween stuff, the pumpkins, the Boo You're by the Barrel went over fantastic. We were able to boo over just about 200 kids in the Borough of Folcroft. We got a lot of great feedback on it. So we had lots of people who were extremely happy. Thank you to my committee, Parks and Rec, who stepped up and filled a ton of bags and delivered a ton of bags. It was a great experience. And I think everybody involved did a great job and we all had fun doing it. Next up for Parks and Rec is the Christmas tree lighting and what that is going to look like in the year of COVID. We're not quite sure. I'm going to touch base with Santa Claus. I'm going to reach out to him. I have his phone number. I'm a mom. I got that under control. And the firehouse and see what they're able to do. The committee has discussed putting together craft bags ahead of time with ornaments in them for the kids to make ahead of time, bring to the tree lighting, and we will have make your own hot chocolate kits for them to pick up and take back to their homes with them. So we're not hanging out for hours on end at the Christmas tree lighting. Not exactly sure what that's going to look like yet. Hopefully by the end of the week, we should have something put together and a flyer out for that. So that's where we're at for that. I know Andrew wants to do a food drive for Thanksgiving. He reached out to the police about their turkeys drive that they do. And we talked about doing a food bank at Borough Hall for residents to be able to drop off food to donate to families in need that maybe we have marked as people who are interested or need help in the community. So more information will be coming out for that too soon, very soon.
Lee, I wanted to say what a great job I think you're doing with recreation, and it doesn't go unnoticed. It's not just me. People are stopping me in supermarkets to say how you're killing it out there. So thank you. What you do is really important, and we appreciate you. There's no way you're singing Kyle's praises. I'm looking for 3 more Lee Dailies. So.
It's been fun. It's been definitely interesting and definitely fun and definitely making my life a little hectic, but it's okay. I like it.
Nice. All right. Very good. So is that all you got? Before I move on to the next column, there was something that I wanted to mention under police and administration. I don't know, Chief, are you still on the line? Do you guys have an Officer Pie in the department?
Who?
I got a phone call from somebody that I know personally that had some interaction with one of your officers, and I think I'm getting the name wrong, but he says Officer Pie. I don't know of an Officer Pie, so I'll have to.
We do
call
not
him.
have an Officer Pie. We have an Officer McTie.
Okay, it was probably Officer McTie. So please extend our thanks to Officer McTie. That sounds like that's probably who he was talking about. But the person that called me had a situation, and Officer McTie was a huge help to him. So I just wanted to give him a shout out, and just so that you know that he's out there giving a good impression, and we appreciate him. So,
I appreciate that. He does do a nice job. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So I have, moving on, municipal legislation, Councilman Waters. Councilman Waters.
Yeah. I was on mute. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Again, there's no new news.
Okay.
To discuss yet, but we.
All right, very good. So Public Parks and Recreation, we did that. Municipal legislation. Now we're on to the new construction committee. Councilman Willis.
All right, we spoke about the one big piece that is kind of standing between us and breaking ground with the new building, which is the DEP. So that application was sent in. They came back with comment. We are in the process of dealing with those comments now. The other big piece is the DCED approval for us to be able to take out the loan. That application is in, and we are kind of we've already begun the process of expediting it, but we just kind of have to now feel out how long this takes. I understand the DCD approval process can take up to a month. Is that correct, Alex?
So they have a cursory period of 20 days,
20 days.
To review the application. Now, if everything is correct and in line with it, then you'll probably get an approval a couple days after. If there are issues or they require more additional information, then they'll kick it back and then you'll have to produce that.
Right. So, and then it was a 10-day turnaround on the second round, correct?
Right. But in light of COVID and
They may take more.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
You're seeing much longer turnarounds at every government level right now because of that.
So as with everything that has been this project, we are hopeful that everything will come through well, no issues, but that is never a guarantee, and hope that the expediting process that we are trying to get done for the DCD approval will take effect and we'll get that approval quicker than we may normally get it. Once those two things come through, then we'd be able to start moving forward on signing contracts with the contractor and then beginning the process of site work and breaking ground and things like that of that manner. We are running up against the deadline of the temperature, right? There's a certain point at which it's going to become either very costly to continue doing work or nearly impossible with temperature, as far as I understand. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but we're trying to get this done as quickly as we can so we don't hit that problem. But that's the status of the building project. We have uploaded most of what we need to do right now for our CAP grant approvals that we need to do. Most of those uploads are being done. We're just finalizing a few pieces, but that's an ongoing process that'll go for a bit beyond the two big approvals we need right now.
Very good.
Other than that, that's all I have for this piece.
Awesome. All right, so we're getting there. I feel like we're closing in on it. All right, so police chief's report.
Thank you, Mr. President and the council. I just want to go over, as far as the police department, everything is running pretty smooth. The officers are doing a great job, especially now with this new COVID spur that's come out. We've had one officer that is out right now with COVID, but we've only had 2 officers, knock on wood, so far that have been has had the COVID. As far as arrests and stuff, the anti-crime is doing a great job again, as usual. I don't want to give the name out, but the anti-crime officer is doing a great job. Last week we had a stop with at least 4, I think it was 4 ounces of cocaine, 2 guns, and $25,000 cash. So he's doing a great job. Our traffic guy's doing a great job writing tickets, and not to say that the other officers aren't doing a great job, which they are. It's just, highlighting the specialty units that we do have. But as far as anything else, that's about it right now.
All right, very good. Thank you, Chief. Moving on to the borough manager's report.
Alex, Joe, I believe it's the solicitor's report first.
Forgive me. Yes, it is. Sorry, Alex.
And actually, I have a report to give today, too. Well, not much of one, but I will say I will add to Councilman Waters' reports that you guys actually do have a zoning application in. That would for the 7-Eleven project. They're asking for certain variances. Andrew did reach out to your zoning hearing board solicitor, and they will assemble the board, and they will have their organizational meeting and application hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew, sometime in December.
That would be December 2nd. That's the tentative date right now.
So yeah, first and only application of the year, but you guys do have one. So of note, looks like that project's moving forward. When we talk to the architect, they probably want to have land development and everything wrapped up by March of next year so they can break ground. So that one's proceeding pretty quickly. And other than that, kind of got an odd request that I addressed this morning. And that was for a potential application for a liquor license intermunicipal transfer. So not to bore you with any of the details, but under the archaic liquor code of the Commonwealth, there is a quota system. So at the county level and at your local level here in the borough, there are only certain amount of liquor licenses that are allowed to be issued based on population. In the borough, it's usually one per every 3,000 residents. They base it on the survey. Not going to go into the details for you. There is a loophole. That's what this person is applying for. Essentially, it says if you're capped out at the maximum number of liquor licenses in your municipality, you can actually find another one within the county that someone is willing to sell, and you can transfer it into the borough. In this case, there is a hearing and procedural requirement that the borough actually has to approve this transaction. So we're going to have to provide notice to your property owners and surrounding community members. We will have a public hearing on this with a court reporter where the applicant will come and present their case. And much like a zoning decision, you guys will render a decision, and then I will write a written opinion either approving or denying the intermunicipal transfer of this license. From the brief email communications I had with this potential applicant, nothing was set in stone. It's for what they call an R restaurant liquor license. So this is your traditional liquor license that you see, where you would have a restaurant that can serve and dispense and also sell certain quantities of alcohol to go as well. We're waiting to see if it's going to happen or not. The earliest this could happen would be January based on the timing, the advertisement requirements, and the fact that they still have to get an application into the borough. So I will keep you posted, but that is something of interest and something of note that you guys might have to have a hearing on in the relative future.
It certainly interests me. Let me ask you this: did they indicate where the location of this facility will be for this bar restaurant?
No. I mean, the only details I got out of this email communication was that it was for an applicant within the borough and it was for a restaurant liquor license. So you can narrow it down to an existing restaurant if that helps, but that's about it. I mean, there are many other subtypes of liquor licenses that people apply to and that are permissive, which you could really narrow it down, but this is the broadest. So, I mean, your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. I mean, I think we have probably 5 out on the street now, liquor licenses. I think there's 2 up at the top of the hill. There's the field house. There's the liquor license that's lingering around from the old Critics' Choice, which I think became, it's where the diner is now. And then there's a bar across the street from there. I mean, so we're definitely past the 1 per 3,000 residents already.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 90% of the municipalities in the state are capped out, and you might actually be over because there's all kinds of odd grandfather rules too when it comes to liquor licenses. So obviously this person's done the research and determined that they're, you guys are over the cap and they need to transfer one in. But ultimately after the hearing, it is at your discretion whether to approve it or not.
I actually don't think we're over the cap. There's probably a couple for sale that are still in the borough. The one that probably belonged to the Sharon Hill American Legion, which is actually in Folcroft. They had a liquor license. And the one that belonged to the diner, they don't sell liquor unless somebody bought it and moved it to another municipality. I don't know. I mean, that's just.
Well, we're speculating now, and just not to get into the weeds, like I said, but there are about 23 different subtypes of liquor licenses. So it could be the fact that they have one of the
one they're looking for. Yeah, I got you.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, just keep that in mind. We'll probably have to have a public hearing on it in January. So if we do an organization meeting and a committee's meeting, we'll have that at the voting. Probably that, if not, or February. It depends on when to get the application in.
Okay, all right, very good. So, moving on to the borough manager's report.
So Joe, the finance director's report does come first, but obviously, in
He's
this
not
case, we're not
present.
going to be doing it. We will, I believe, have a report prepared for the next meeting. Still working on that though, so it might go out a bit late. So yeah, I think that we've covered a lot of the things that I wanted to cover. Kyle and I, that's basically what we've been working on. The zoning, the issues with the new building construction, Formcraft, safe store, things of that nature. One note I'd like to say is that our food giveaways for the month of October obviously have concluded. Our Wednesday food giveaways. We hope to continue those. Right now, I don't have any. I'm not even able to confirm whether or not that's going to happen, but they were extremely successful, and I wanted to thank Representative Dave Deloso and all of his staff for their work. We also variously had staff from Congresswoman Scanlon's office as well who came to help out. We gave out 14,000 pounds of food to people in need throughout the month of October. I think that's fantastic. To elaborate on the Thanksgiving food giveaway, I suggest that beginning as soon as tomorrow, we begin advertising that we are collecting. Alex, understand if this is a general advertisement, and as long as the donations are small, we don't have to record them, if I'm not mistaken. But if we begin advertising for Thanksgiving related foods, dried stuffing, dried mashed potatoes, cans of corn, cans of gravy, canned cranberry sauce, things like that. And then the idea, in partnership with the police and potentially local businesses or other local elected officials, we could hand out turkeys along with a bag of an assortment of goods that we would separate later on to try and help people with their meals. So this is something that we did very successfully at a previous employer of mine. That's something I'd like to continue here.
Okay, very good. Wanted to ask you, actually, Lisa, are you receiving agendas for the meetings?
I am not sending them to her.
Yeah, so moving forward, send them to all contractors. It would be Lisa, the finance director, the police chief should get one. Anybody who's going to be in any one of our meetings should get the agenda. That should be on your mailing list.
Sure. Sorry about that.
At least I meant to take care of that sooner. I should have remembered that before, so I apologize to you.
Thank you.
So moving on to old business. Anything under old business? No? Going once, twice, new business. Anything under new business?
Just real quick, and we should probably add this as an item under committees, is the driveway and parking permit. As we're now conducting those meetings.
Mhm.
Just for reports. So the first meeting was held last week. Committee comprising of myself, Lee Daly, and Councilman Daly and Councilman Roskowski, and then two residents. Just preliminary stuff, not really much to speak on now, but just kind of indicating that that process has begun, and our next meeting will be next week. So we're hitting the ground and we're working on it.
Okay. I would like to attend the next one. But
Think we'll run into a quorum issue.
right. Is anybody taking minutes at these meetings?
Yes, we are. I believe, Andrew, you are working on that. Some issues came up this week that have prevented you from actually being able to do that.
Yep.
But we'll produce minutes and we'll put out reports, and I will also update council at meetings as to the goings on as well.
Yeah, because I want to know what kind of progress we're making. Okay. So that's new business. Is there anything else? Anybody? No? I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
See you, everybody.